So here we go. All right. And then hopefully I'll be able to, in turn, clip these into smaller portions so that I can then little videos. All right. So I'm going to go to Insta messages. Oh, no. Oh, there's the lights. Hello, welcome. Thank you, Kathy. Hello, welcome to the stream. Okay. Back in time. There's so many questions. There's so many questions. Um, it's actually pretty remarkable how many questions people have, which is awesome. I'm all for that. And I wish I could answer all of them in a timely manner, but I really just can't because a lot of them require research. And the research for a lot of this stuff takes an incredibly long time. But hopefully all work out. Zooming back. And really, I just started posting on Instagram and Facebook like earlier this year. So it's pretty remarkable the amount of people have messaged me since then. Okay, bottom, here we go. All right, let's have. All right. Cool. There's right. Message Delta about something. It's funny. About main air traffic controllers having off, which okay. Here we go. Here's the first. Where do I control at? I am at Houston Center, which is in Houston. Hello, Will, welcome. All right. Here's the question. Hello, just tried following good stuff question. Say after a diversion, say due to weather, if I inform clearance delivery that I'm a diversion recovery flight, will this move me up in line for departure? I tried this many years ago and I diverted to Baltimore, could not get into LaGuardia. It worked. Taxied past several aircraft in line. Didn't know if this is actually a thing or the controller just felt sorry for me. Ha, thanks. It is a thing. Diversion recovery flights is in the order of priority, higher than some others. And in the remarks of your plane, if you're flying for a 121 dispatcher, they will put in diversion recovery flight. And those will normally be the first guys to go to the airport once it's reopened. Pat, how's it going, man? Obi mentioned you in an episode or two ago. I know that's been awesome. That's been really cool. I actually have RH's number in my phone now, which is really cool. I've looked up to those guys for a long time, and I've watched their stuff for a really long time, and so it's really cool to like actually have them like mention me or at least know who I am, which is pretty cool. But yeah, they've got some great stuff. All right, so there you go. That answers that question. We are good there. Moving on. Some of this stuff. Am I going to Oshkosh this year? I am not not 100% yet. Still working on a few things to go. Not 100% yet. This. So. All right. Post RH's numbers for the lulls. No. Hey there, phenomenal content, good sir. Why, thank you. Not sure you see this, but as an airline guy, I've always wondered how much slack is in the system when it comes to assigned speeds on approaches. Often when 200 to 181 better, whatever fix, or 170 till 5 out. Some people I've flown with will start slowing to final point 2 early. I start to get a feeling of people closing in quick behind us. Is the spacing given able to account for minor early slowdowns? Do controllers assume the aircraft is flying the slowest speed when given XX or better, or anything above is just cushion for the next aircraft behind us? That's a good question. And I actually responded to this one. Normally we anticipate that the pilots will start slowing down at the minimum distance from the point at which they need to be slowed down by. Think of speed restrictions on a star, on a SID, as like speed limit signs on the freeway, right? The speed limit starts where that sign is. And so you can be going up any speed up until that sign. Once you are at that sign and past that sign, you need to be at the speed of the sign, if that makes sense. So to whatever fix or 170 till 5 miles out, we're wanting you to be at 170 knots till you're 5 miles out, at which point you can start slowing. Yes, these speeds are accounting for compression behind you, and the air traffic control is anticipating that there will be compression, and so that's why they're giving you this speed until 5 miles. They're ensuring this compression basically doesn't happen earlier than they want it to happen. How do you remember taxi instructions? Write it down. On your iPad, draw it out, write it down. There you go. That's how you do it. Asking me the same question multiple times maybe will get me to answer it. I mean, it did right now. But yeah, get an airport diagram. Get a highlighter. Write it down. Cool. There you go. Yep. Let's see here. That was a good one. People send me memes all the time. It's pretty fun. All right. Other one? Quick question from the flight deck. How do different centers and sectors coordinate traffic flow as airplanes move between airspace? Sometimes the handoff feels a bit inefficient. For example, into Miami from the Midwest, we'll get slowed by Atlanta, slowed and turned by Jacksonville, then sped up by the next sector, only to be slowed and turned again. I'm sure each decision makes sense locally, but are there newer tools or systems helping smooth that coordination across the sectors? Yes, there is, and that's normally the air traffic control system command center's primary overlook, right? So if Miami is having in trail, then they're giving Atlanta this in trail to feed to Jacksonville to hopefully minimize the amount of zigzagging that you're having to do. Now, there are a lot of airplanes flying in Florida, and that is tricky sometimes. I mean, it's not a perfect system. If it was a perfect system, then you would take off at your specific time, and all the other planes would be taking off at their specific time, and you would be given a slot time to arrive in Miami, and then you would arrive at your slot time. You'd fly at your filed airspeed at your filed altitude, and there's no other factors associated with flying from point A to point B. That's not realistic, though, right? There's weather, there's military airspace, there's corporate aviation guys that may not be included in this overarching plan. And so that's where you may get some compression. That's where you may get some turns for sequence because, oh, now you've got 12 people going to Miami for an F1 race whenever they weren't accounted for in these slot times for the commercial airliners, right? And so, yeah, that's just, it's a system that is built on itself, basically, over the years. And it's going to be interesting to see how the Smart Skies plays into it, which is that new AI like flight planning software that the FAA is going to be rolling out relatively soon. One of the main contributors for that is Thales, Thales, I think, which is a European company. And That European company, I mean, a lot of that is pretty cool. The European company is pretty cool in that it does um, it does those slot systems, and all of those European airports are so highly regulated, right? London, you have to have a slot time. You can't just go to London. You can't just go to Gatwick. You can't just go to Milan. You have to have a slot to go there. There is no freedom of flying between point A and point B like there is in the US. And so you have to have so the brain of the computer system works well there because there's not a lot of variables, right? Not like you would have in the US. So that'll be interesting. Anyway, so we'll see how that works. Hopefully that's one of the newer tools and systems that's going to help smooth the coordination across sectors. But yeah, normally you're just, I'm providing the next sector 10 in trail going to Miami. They may have 20 in trail going to Miami for some reason. Hello, Noah's Fly, welcome. And so you need to, you just work from your sector to sector to sector. Is it the most efficient? No. Is it safe? Yes. So that's what I have to say about that. There you go. When I request a shortcut via CPDLC, it automatically rejects it and says go to voice. Why is that? Your CPDLC functionality may be limited, or you may be requesting something that's not available yet in the US. You can request direct a fix via CPDLC, but you can't request a route string. And you can request a fix that's not on your route, which some pilots have done, and then it'll request it on our end, and we click it, and we're like, well, it can't merge into the route. Like, it'll tell us this won't merge. So then we'll either reject it, and you'll get the go to voice, or we'll go to voice anyway, and we'll be like, hey, that's not on your route. Do you want to go there and then somewhere else? And then they're like, yes, that's what we'd like to do, and you go from there. And so that's that. All right. On. Somebody said, got well qualified on ATSA Pool 2, waiting for TOL. I'm also FR private pilot working on commercial. Awesome. Cool. Congratulations. Take a look at my TOL videos, talking about the medical and the security and all that fun stuff, because that is a fun thing. Abdullah, go ahead, ask a question. All right, next question here. Great account, learning a lot. Care to address a pet peeve of mine? Sure. When a pilot has a request from a center controller that doesn't seem to be particularly task saturated and calls Houston Center American 1234 request and waits for a reply before then making the simple request for an altitude change, a shortcut, or weather deviation, it seems that the more efficient, less radio chatter means for a request is to simply do so in one mission. I recognize that there are cases when a pilot is having a tough time getting short transmission in, but generally it seems like a waste of everyone's time. Thank you. I agree. Read the room. If it's busy, say number 123 with request. That gives us a chance to find you on our radar scope, because if it's busy, there's a lot of data blocks, and if an American just pops up and like, hey, Center American 1234, request flight level 340. Now I have to find you, and most of the time you're like in the middle of our airspace, and that's the last place I'm looking. Whenever people check on or have an altitude, I'm checking the boundaries because it's normally somebody checking in to my sector, right? So if it's busy, hey, I have a request, or if you have CPDLC, request it with CPDLC. That's great. A lot of pilots forget that they can do that if they're CPDLC equipped. But yeah, do that. If it's slow, then yeah, just all out with it all at once. Nova 123, request flight level 340. 123, climb maintain flight level 340. There you go. Over, done with. Great. What altitude does my sector start? 11,000 feet. Except on the mid, we take over Lake Charles approach on the mid. Thank you for the 150 likes, Noah. Are they restarting the ATC jump seat soon? I was told yesterday that we are waiting on the TSA for final approval, which is awesome. So hopefully that will be relatively soon when that happens. So that's exciting. That is super exciting. Ever have a desire to move to approach controller tower? Maybe tower. I don't think I would want to do approach. I don't know why. I just think the windows would be cool. Windows would be cool in a tower. All right. Continuing on. A lot of the stuff, a lot of people have questions for like tower people. And I'm not a tower guy, so I'm going to try and answer them. Yeah, see, just get denied and tell me to go to voice. Then go to voice. It's easy. What's inside Control Center look like? Screens in a basement. It's not a basement, but yes, it's a dark windowless environment where we talk to voices in our head. That's basically what the center is. 1,000 feet never left approach. Yep. All right, random ATC question for you. We'll see if I can answer it. The airport I fly out of, APA, that is somewhere in Denver, right? There's two common phrases that ATC will use when clearing us for takeoff. The first is fly runway heading. The second is fly straight out. I assume that runway heading is the actual heading of the runway and not correcting for wind drift. That is correct. Straight out is correcting for wind drift to have a course that equals the runway heading. Is that correct? I had to see if I try to tell me otherwise. It's two separate things. So fly, it's basically okay. It's basically saying the same thing. Fly runway heading is yes, don't correct for wind drift, but fly runway heading is more of like an IFR term. I could be wrong, but normally if you're IFR, you're going to get something to get you out of the terminal or the airspace around the tower, right? Fly runway heading, turn right heading 230, turn left heading 170, fly on the SID, right? Whereas straight out departure approved or whatever, I'm thinking that's more for VFR aircraft because we're not assigning you a heading. We're telling you just fly VFR and we're flinging you out into the world. That's my interpretation of it, not as a tower controller. But yeah, a lot of people are saying heading is heading, straight out is track. And ultimately, like, doesn't really matter at this point. You're going to be hopefully talking with the Tracon here in a second. But yeah, I guess it matters. But as a center controller, it doesn't really matter for me because I'm not giving you that. I'm not going to be like blah blah blah. Or maybe I will. I don't know. We'll see here. Answered that one. Said something about the Waffle House Index. Did my back? And they do issue runway heading to VFR occasionally. Okay, there you go. Yeah, parallels. Yeah. We deviate for weather and we don't have time to get a word in. What do you suggest? I have a video about that. Declare an emergency. Flying into a thunderstorm is worse than having to talk to the FSDO. I mean, you'll still probably have to talk to the FSDO, but at least you'll be alive to talk to the FSDO. There you go. Hope that answers your All right. Moving on. Crazy. Too many messages. All right. Here we go. What's your thoughts on the Academy no longer teaching non-radar? I think they still are, for one. I know that they're thinking about getting rid of it, but they still are teaching non-radar for the time being. All right. here. Aviate, navigate, communicate. Yep. But don't forget to communicate. That's still one of the top 3, right? It's aviate, navigate, and communicate. So aviate, navigate, then communicate. But communicating is still an important thing. You can't just aviate, navigate, and just not tell us what you're doing. Like, you still have to tell us what you're doing if you can, which you should, because we don't like surprises. And we can't help you if we don't know what you're doing, right? Yeah, that's my 2 cents there. Pilot, welcome. What is my schedule like? I'm off Mondays and Tuesdays. I have a video about this, actually. You can just look up ATC schedule, and it should take you to just kind of keep you awake with surprises, of course. Yes, Pilot, you can ask me questions here. That's fine. Hello, I flew out of Chicago here a couple of days ago and encountered a situation I hope you can clarify for me. Okay. For heavy 777 and our clean speed was 276 knots. On the O'Hare 9 departure, there is a speed restriction maintained 250 until advised. Once airborne, we requested speed 280 and was approved by the approach controller. During the climb at around 8,000, when we switched to Chicago Center, they cleared us to resume normal speed. In this situation, should I have slowed back down to 250, or can I maintain 280 and accelerate once passing 10,000 feet? This is actually a pretty common question. And 91-117, there's a stipulation that if your aircraft can't go slower than, or needs to go faster than 250 knots to stay airborne, then you can do that. Now, can air traffic control approve you to go faster than 280 knots? Technically, no. We can't tell you to do things that are contrary to the CFRs. The CFR itself is telling you that you can go faster if you need that to not fall out of the sky. Your clean speed, I'm assuming, is all your flaps up and your landing gear up and everything, right? Is 276. So technically, you could be dirty and maintain 250 knots. That's my understanding. I could be wrong. So should you be dirty and maintaining 250 knots? Or is it safer for you to be clean and maintain 276 knots? I don't know. So my general rule of thumb is if you're heavy, you're going to freaking Tokyo or whatever out of Chicago, you're gonna need to be fast because you can't stay airborne if you're slow, right? And is it safer to fly faster but have the wing cleaned up, right? It's a little bit more of an enjoyable ride. You're not as riding the flaps and everything. Okay, then I would say the 276 knots is fine, or the 280 knots or whatever. And then the resume normal speed, I would just maintain that 280 knots till you're above 10,000 and then go on beyond that. Yeah, don't slow down to 250. You're already going fast. That's fine. Air traffic control is already accounting for you going fast. So yeah, don't worry about that. Flying out of San Francisco, I get questions. San Francisco, LA. I get a lot of questions about this as well. That's kind of different because if you turn left and you're going over the ocean, once you're 12 miles away from the coastline, the 250 knots below 10,000 feet no longer exists. You can go faster than 250 knots below 10,000 feet in Class Echo, 12 miles from the coastline. So it doesn't really matter there, and you're probably climbing pretty slow too. But yeah, climbing dirty to 10 just to maintain 250 makes no sense. Yeah. So yeah, I'd say clean, and you can do it. That's my opinion. Do with that what you will. I don't think anybody would get mad at you because they're anticipating you to do that anyway, right? They know you're heavy. They know you're heavy. Yeah, and I mean, they deal with these airplanes every single day. They're not going to be surprised that you want to go faster just to stay airborne, right? That makes sense. All right. This is a good one. Oh, somebody said a question. How do we feel about executing prompts in the FMC when CPDLC, especially when oceanic? I don't know what the question is. What advice do you have for Air Force controller trying to persuade a career with the FAA? Do it. Yeah. You're already a controller. Just boop. Military to civilian. That's great. Prior experience, 52 weeks of consecutive work experience. Should be fine. Yeah. Can I talk about...
And also with you. What?
Can I talk about consolidated wake turbulence procedures? I don't know much about them. In the center, we don't really worry about them that much because we're not getting airplanes that close together where wake turbulence is going to be that big of a problem. Now, whenever there's like an A380 flying over a little phenom, we're going to tell you about the wake turbulence, and we're going to say caution wake turbulence. If you got a heavy flying above you, we're going to tell you about the wake turbulence. But in terms of like the mileage distance behind airplanes, normally it's just 5 miles unless it's a super, which makes it really easy for us because that's our minimum separation anyway with airplanes. Yeah, the recategorization is supposed to make things more efficient within the TRACON, and every data block has a letter on it, so the controller knows an A in front of an F, you need 10 miles, or a B in front of an E, you need 8 miles or whatever, which is pretty nifty. And actually, I met the person who was in charge of that at an event recently, which was really, really cool. That was really, really cool. I'm a controller. Do you ever get tired of talking about work at home? No, I'm a nerd and I'm an av geek and I like talking about this stuff. And it helps me learn. I have some downtime too. I basically just watched YouTube all day today, and then I was like, okay, I want to do something else, and here we are, live streaming away. Okay. So one question: how do you tell ATC that they have your call sign wrong? I was flying for the first time in NorCal, and they kept getting my call sign wrong. I kept repeating my call sign and highlighting the part they got wrong. Only after I got handed off was I able to get it fixed. I asked him, did you file a flight plan or pick up VFR flight following? He said picked up VFR flight following. And then I said, were you handed off to a center sector or another TRACON sector? He said, initial call was the NorCal approach getting flight following. I repeated my call sign even over punctuated my call sign, yet they read it back wrong. Then I'm assuming that they got handed off to a center. So if you get flight following and you don't have a flight plan, hello Denzel, and you don't have a flight plan filed, then they're going to put you into the system. They have to make a flight plan for you. Do they fat finger the numbers and the letters sometimes? Yes, it does happen. And in order to edit your call sign in the TRACON, it's a little bit more tricky than it would be to edit your call sign in the center. In the center, we have the big master computer, and so we can actually go in and we can edit your call sign relatively easily. So I'm assuming once you got handed off, they were able to fix it because that's the master computer. But if you say your call sign and ATC gets it wrong, I would just be like, hey, center, I think you typed my call sign in wrong. It's November 456 Alpha Bravo, not November 456 Papa Bravo or whatever. That's perfectly fine. Maybe there's a better way to say that. Hey, I just want to verify my call sign. It is this. And they should be able to denote that on a strip or... Yes, center is like the gods of ATC with all the power. That is correct. Yeah, and so that's kind of that mentality there. And then the center we can just fix if they need to. How do controllers keep track of Bravo clearances with such congested airspace? Normally, the center or the approach sector that's working the Bravo knows who they've cleared into the Bravo or not. And if they can clear you into the Bravo, that first TRACON sector that you're going to be talking to will clear you into the Bravo, if they can. I'm not sure if there's a denotation on the data block. Hey, thanks for the follow. If there's something on the data block that denotes it, but from the Bravo controllers that I've talked to, they're basically like the first guy that you talk to will just clear you in, and they don't have to worry about it. And if they don't clear you in, then it's up to you to not go into the Bravo because you're not cleared into the Bravo yet, right?
Looks like I picked the wrong week to quit smoking.
And when in doubt, verify that you have a Bravo clearance. You know, don't just go into the Bravo. Hello, hello, ZBW, welcome. Yeah, don't just go into the Bravo. When in doubt, ask it out. The B-52 pilot there. Let's see.
Nothing beats a Jet 2 holiday.
Thank you for the follow. Welcome. All right.
Nothing beats a Jet 2 holiday.
It's a Jet 2 holiday. Throwback. Okay. That one. Oh. Ooh. All right, here we go. Took my ATSI yesterday, slightly nervous. There you go. Out in Mexico, our techs do handoffs. Anything special? When in doubt, flat out. So the centers in Mexico, whenever they coordinate with us, they pass the flight plan information. If it's not electronically passed, we've got some code written into the system now where it actually will electronically pass their flight plan information, which is nice. And then as that plane gets close, that controller will call the center, the Houston Center controller, be like, hey, Corpus High, Monterey, I don't know what sector it is, handoff or whatever. And they'll say, this beacon code, this person squawking this code that's coming at you is November 123. And then the Corpus controller will then track it up by correlating the flight plan information that we have now with that data block. And it'll pop up the data block. Sometimes we have to make them change their squawk code because the squawk code in Mexico isn't working with one of the codes that we would have here in the US. And so, yeah, you're doing all this manual coordination basically for every handoff coming across the sectors because ERAM and the radar system that Mexico uses doesn't play well together for radar handoff. That makes sense. Same thing with Mexico across the Gulf. We have to prove non-radar separation at the boundary fixes. And so you're calling and you're passing flight plan information and you're passing saying, hey, this guy's at flight level 340, estimating this fix at this time. They're like, okay, that's fine. And while I have you, I have this guy coming opposite direction at this altitude, estimating at this time. You need 15 minutes or 20 miles or 10 minutes and a Mach number or 5 minutes and like 0.5 Mach or faster in front or something like that. I don't know. Some crazy magic voodoo non-radar stuff. But that's basically the coordination. Yeah, you're just constantly in communication with the Mexican controllers if you border Mexico. All right. Is there any way for the future to avoid a crazy edict? We were given wheels up time 4 hours from now to go to Augusta because of the Masters. I know delays are due to volume. At least that's what the status page says. It's due to because you're going to Augusta during the Masters. It is volume, not just what the Masters. That is the problem. I know it's busy, but in the future, is there a way for pilots to get ahead of this, like a pre-get-in-line clearance? Unfortunately, there's no TSA pre-check for edicts. There's no lightning lanes for edicts, unfortunately. It's not how that works. The simple solution would just be not flying to the airport that has the edict. I know that's really easy for me to say, but that's what it would be. Don't file multiple flight plans because each one will get an edict. Don't refile your flight plan because now you'll just be put at the back of the line. If you're given an edict, your flight plan won't drop out. like it would normally after 2 hours or after 4 hours. So, yeah. I don't know if it's easier. Eddie, welcome. And I don't know. This is just purely speculation here. But you could almost file for an earlier departure window or arrival window, knowing that you'll get a 4-hour edict whenever you want to leave realistically 2 or 3 hours later. Now you risk the probability of them actually being able to release you then, at which point now you're departing without your passengers, which is negative, right? And so you're kind of playing a game here. The thing that really screws up edicts as well is people departing VFR, going to that airport, and then either wanting to pick up their IFR in the air, which they probably won't be allowed to because we'll normally get no IFR pickups to these busy destination airports. Augusta during the Masters, Austin during F1, Vegas during F1, Eagle or Telluride or Aspen during ski time. And so, I mean, you can fly VFR there, and they'll probably be able to fit you in, but you're now taking runway time that other planes would need, and now their edicts will be bumped, or they'll have to be put into holding. So it's kind of a mean move, right? Like, sure, you got there, but at the cost of, 20 other people who, the edict is there, so you're not holding in the air waiting for your runway slot. The edict is ensuring your runway slot. If you're VFR, they don't have to let you land at that airport. They could tell you to go somewhere else as well. The edict is ensuring that you'll get a time slot on the runway. So if you want to ensure that you're going to go to your destination airport, waiting for the edict is the important thing to do, and it's the nice thing to do, right? Work at Augusta. There you go. 231 line manual handoff. Yep. Where do you be? That'd be cool. Hello, 880. Welcome. Nighttime cargo ops. Yeah, depends on your facility, right? So Memphis is going to have a lot of overnight FedEx operations. Louisville is going to have a lot of overnight UPS operations. But yeah. Let's. This is just Instagram. We're just 4 weeks ago. 4 weeks ago. Here we go. 4 weeks. I thought I would be smart and have like AI consolidate my questions here, but then I didn't. Actually, it did start out that way, and I did have an actual system working. Other filters. I had other. Something about the MOAs. All right. Thank you for the likes. Welcome, welcome. This live is answering the mailbag that I have all backed up. And then hopefully I'll be able to clip these into little videos that will answer my stuff with. Check out the plane perception one. Yeah, that one's tough. You'd be a great pilot, but terrible on the radios. Yep. CDC, welcome. All right. If you could you explain the purpose of a VFR flight plan from the controller side, and can you go international with them? So to the likes of Canada, Central America, or any of those Caribbean islands. So a VFR flight plan, air traffic control does not know anything about. You file a VFR flight plan, And that is primarily for search and rescue for your own peace of mind. If you say, hey, I filed a VFR flight plan to an air traffic controller, they're going to be like, cool. What do you want me to do about that? That's not going to get you anything. It's separate from flight following. And so filing a VFR flight plan within the US, I mean, is a smart thing to do if you're flying and you don't really have anybody waiting for you at your destination airport or anything, because that'll start the search and rescue stuff, because it'll have your estimated time of arrival and your general flight line that you were on. There is a thing called a DVFR, Delta VFR flight plan, which is a defense VFR flight plan, which you need to file if you're going to cross the ADIZ, which is that Air Defense Identification Zone, which is the 12 miles offshore of the U.S. Maybe it's more than that. Or one of the boundaries with Canada or Mexico. So you do need to file that, because otherwise they're going to think that you're like drug smuggling or something like that, and that's not good. So yeah, that's that. But yeah, normally VFR flight plans, air traffic control isn't going to know what it is. If you want flight following, we'll give you a squawk code. We'll make you a flight plan, but that's separate from the VFR flight plan that you filed. Y'all get microbursts in DFW? They do. That actually was a crash that happened back in the 80s, I think. Delta Airlines hit a microburst. Delta Airlines. All right. Moving on. We have a lot of VFR pilots that do not understand what is required before entering Class Bravo. Well, that actually just goes in with this. I don't know if you'll respond, but I've always wondered how many people do you see busting Bravos, and do these people normally get deviations or a slap on the wrist? I don't know if you deal with any of that, but I'm just curious since I've seen a lot, especially at the flight school near me. So I would say busting a Bravo is actually pretty rare. Most pilots are pretty cognizant of where the Bravo is in relation to their flight school or in relation to whatever. I'm sure that their flight instructors kind of beat it into them. Be like, hey, if you climb above this altitude, you're in the Bravo. If you're over here, you're in the Bravo. And so hopefully they're a little bit more cognizant of where the Bravo is during that time. Now, does it happen? Yeah. And it kind of has two ways that it could end. One is you're talking to air traffic control. You don't get a clearance into the Bravo, but something happens and you get into the Bravo. They say, hey, you're in the Bravo. And you're like, oh, I'm so sorry. I'm exiting now, right? Being apologetic, being sorry, saying that it was an honest mistake, right? You're less likely to bring the FSDO into it. Now, if you're like the November Romeo guy in Vegas, who was like, well, you didn't clear me into the Bravo, but you're in it right now. Okay, get out of it. But I'm just wanting to fly my plane or whatever. If you're being negative or accusatory or aggressive, then yeah, you're probably going to get a pilot deviation, because that's not good. One, it's not very safe. Two, and you shouldn't be in a Bravo if you don't have a clearance. That's basically what it is. Yeah, it's a type of airspace that's around really busy airports. It's the most heavily regulated airspace, so you have to have a lot of there's like requirements to fly into it. Have you ever had unidentified aircraft show up on radar? If I told you that, I'd have to kill you. I'm just kidding. Personally, no, I have not. What's your favorite star into Houston? I like the H-Town or the Tejas arrival, just because the fixes on those arrivals are pretty funny. Yeah, numerous pilots think VFR flight following grants access to the Bravo. Does not. That is correct. Yeah, just because you have flight following does not mean that you're cleared into the Bravo. You're not cleared into the Bravo until you hear cleared into the Bravo. Yes. Very important point there. Okay. Very important there. Second. Sorry, I'm getting over a little sinus infection here. This FAA sometimes does really well with the fixes on stars. They actually have little work groups for those, and so that's why they're sometimes pretty fun. Yeah, we assume that you're going to keep yourself out of it, but we're always watching and we'll prompt exactly. Idea for the first fix of a reroute. Give us a recommended heading while we type it in. That is a thing that some controllers will do, especially if it's a pretty drastic turn, or if we need you to start turning relatively quickly. That is something that we're taught to do. Now, if controllers actually do it, that's a whole different thing, but that is a tool that we do use sometimes. All right. I'm a pilot who's based in Hong Kong and I fly to North America often. I get monitored quite often from Anchorage Center. Is IFALPA regulatory or is PAZN different from the rest of the US? Hope all is well, and thanks for making the vids here, truly. So this was talking about monitor transfer of communications as opposed to contact transfer of communications with CPDLC. So right now, air traffic control in the US can't use monitor TOC, transfer communications, because IFALPA and some other European unions say that it's not a true transfer of control if the pilot doesn't change frequencies and then check on. Where everybody in Europe does it, and all of my European followers are like, why doesn't the US do monitor talks? I'm like, well, it's because y'all's unions are against it, and the FAA is not going to fight that right now if they don't have to. So we don't have monitor talks yet. Now, that is to say, if you do have CPDLC and you're flying from, so like my airspace has 5 sectors, and on the mid shift, we combine all those sectors onto one person. So one person is working 5 frequencies. As you cross sector boundary A to sector boundary B, we'll tell you, change to my frequency 123.82. If you have CPDLC, I can uplink you, monitor my frequency 123.82. You change the frequency, and there you go. You're just monitoring. So we can use monitor if you're going from our personal sector to another personal sector. That makes sense. Where we would use that change to my frequency phraseology. Hello, HJC0706. Welcome. Okay. All right, this one is very long. Okay, so here we go. I've been testing a little theory lately for weather. I'm giving 2 fixes instead of left-right thoughts. So like you're saying, hey, can we go to here and here, and then points beyond instead of requesting deviations? Yeah, I like that. I think there's 2 trains of thoughts with air traffic controllers as well. One is to give you blanket deviations left or right when able to proceed direct fix. The other is to give you a fix, and then points beyond. I'm more partial to that method if I can. That way I can keep everybody kind of on the same line. But if you're the only plane, How long until I'm eligible? I'm assuming you mean eligible to retire. 19 years. 19 years, which is crazy. 19 years? Yeah. Maybe 17. I don't know. I'd have to look it up. Yeah, I work at Houston Center. There you go. I hope you're all well. I have another question. Why sometimes when the approach controller talks to us, can you hear beeping on the background? That sounds like the popcorn is ready. There's a little popcorn, or the French fries are ready. Um, that is the conflict alert, the CACA, CACA, in a Traycon. It's a beep 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 sound. And that's basically letting the controller know that they're having a conflict alert. In the center, we don't get the we don't get the beep 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 sound. Our data box just blink. Like, hey, these two airplanes are hitting each other soon. You should do something about that. Okay. Turn 20 degrees right. Turn 30 degrees right. Denver, Frontier. Okay. So that's a good chunk of the stuff from Facebook. Can unpack stuff real quick. We were way too busy to just let y'all wander. Yep. How long did it take you to CPC, and was that the hardest part? It took me about 3 years to CPC, but that's a year and a half of COVID. So really about a year and a half of actual training. Oh, okay. Well, we'll get there. 6 and change. Yeah. Well, that's exciting. Almost done. Almost done. That's wild. Okay. So let's switch to here. What do you call a bunch of pilots in a basement? I don't know. What do you call a bunch of pilots in a basement? Excuse me. A wine cellar. Hmm. I'm making way more than a controller working 6 days a week. Yeah. Oh, I'm sure. All right. Let's see here. So, messages. Want this to? Okay. Oof. That's a lot of overtime. A lot of overtime. All right. Sure. All right, here we go. Thank you for the patience. Here we go. Chatting with another pilot in the hangar, and he recounted a story he read in a book about an acrobatic pilot in VFR-only plane that needed to reposition an IMC. So the solution was an IFR plane, filed, and they flew as a flight of 2. Have you ever seen a flight of multiples in IMC? Is this a tall tale? I don't know how that would work there. That doesn't sound very believable. That being said, I have seen flight of multiples in IMC. The military does that every single day. You know, you get a flight of F-18s flying in Class Alpha airspace. They're on an IFR flight plan. They've got it all picked up. 16 days. Wow, that's crazy. So yeah, it's doable, but I don't know how having a VFR only plane in a flight with an IFR plane would A, be legal, and B, yeah, you can individually fly IMC. Yeah, so I don't. I was actually just about to say one of my friends flies F-18s in the military, and he was telling me how they do that. And basically, there's a computer, so all the flight wing people like lock onto the main guy, and they all do it. It's really cool actually how that all works out. But yeah, that's crazy. Wow. Hello, Tim. Well, thank you for the follow. So yeah, VFR following an IFR person in a flight, I don't know about that. I would just wait till it's not IMC anymore, personally. Second here, I gotta blow my nose. Ugh. Thank you for your patience. All right. Your friend is at MSY sector, excited to defend or the defend vias, descend vias. I don't know. Maybe. You know, New Orleans is the only Class Bravo in the U.S. that doesn't have standard instrument departures. Good day, Prop Hat Cat. I have a controller question. Over the years, I've flown into multiple Class Delta airports, and when advising close traffic, the controller automatically knew we were planning to do touch and goes. The area I'm at now has a Class Delta, and when letting them know close traffic on initial contact, I still ask and request landing types each time. Literally every landing, I have to request left close traffic and the runway. Is the standard in one of the ATC regs. Most of the times, controller just tell me remain left, right traffic, and report whatever lag. Again, I'm not a tower controller, but close traffic, in my understanding, just means that you're going to stay in the traffic pattern. You're not going to be departing. So there's 5 different things that you can do in a traffic pattern, right? 5 different landing things that you can do, right? Stop and go, full stop, touch and go, low approach, missed approach. That full stop. 6. If low approach and missed approach, I think are the same thing. And so yeah, they would want to know what you want to do each time. I get that. There's not a regulation that says if you say close traffic, you're going to be doing touch and goes. That's not it. So they want to know what you're going to be doing every time, because you could change your mind, you know, or you want to tell them, hey, we're going to be doing 12 touch and goes. Okay, cool. You know, and they'll keep a tally. Or they'll be like, just let me know when you're ready for full stop at that point. But the closed traffic itself is not telling the controller enough information about what you're going to be doing whenever you decide to land, right? Shh, don't say that too loud. We might lose the Bravo. No way we could accommodate a Sid. When I work tower, I want to know what to plan on, like on what runway. Yeah, seems to be a military thing. They request left close traffic every time. It's better to go to a smaller field with nothing to practice there. Oh, your videos helped me with the accent. I got best qualified. Awesome, cool, congrats. I'm really in touch and go is different than a stop and go. Yeah, for sure. OKC helping my son study for his basics test, and my aura ring said I was stressed. Math is math, you know. That's funny. So yeah, that's my interpretation of this. Just saying closed traffic is not necessarily enough information to let the controller know what type of landing or what type of thing you want to do within the traffic pattern, right? That's why they're asking you every time. If they keep asking you every single time, then just say, hey, for the next, until I tell you otherwise, we're going to be doing touch and goes. Okay, cool. That allows the controller to plan for that, right? Otherwise, they're going to ask you every time because they have to make a plan every time you depart because they don't know what you're going to do. Just saying closed traffic does not necessarily mean that you're going to just land. Sense. Good question. I have a video about this actually, but all right. Morning. I was wondering if you had any input on what report established and holding means to you as a controller. I thought I did so bad that I applied for a promotion at my current job. There you go. So that's a big thing, right? Most stressful test of your life. Didn't think I did good. I didn't think I did well on it either. And I think the people who think they didn't do well on it do well on it, and the people who think they do well on it don't do well on it. That's my guess. Dev, thanks for stopping by. Thank you. So yeah, I didn't think that I would make it past it, but I did. Here we are. There you go. Okay. So here we go. Received 1,500 likes on 2 different days. X and trivia. What does that mean? 40,000. Okay, so what does report established and holding mean? It means that once you're established in the hold, you report that you're established in the hold. And I would say that being established in the hold, means that you have crossed that holding fix, done your teardrop parallel or direct entry, and are on the inbound leg to the holding point, because now you are established in the hold. At which point you'll do the outbound and then the... why would air traffic control say report established in the hold? Because if you're established in a holding pattern, it is technically a non-radar procedure. And if we protect for the non-radar holding pattern, then I can have other planes around you, or I can use a different altitude or whatever that I can't do until you're established in the hold, if we're using non-radar. Most of the time, I would say 99.9% of the time, it is radar. So having you say, hey, we're entering the hold, which is one of those things that the AIM says that you should do, is just superfluous. We know you're entering the hold. We can see you entering the hold. You don't have to report entering the hold. Similarly, I would not say report established in the hold, because I can see you whenever you get into the hold. So this would be more non-radar. If I need you to report established in the hold for some reason, that's whenever I would use that phraseology. Meow. use it as the time to expect further clearance time. Yeah, in the center, it's a little bit different because we give you that EFC whenever we give you the hold, right, Frehi? So like, yeah, I guess report established in the hold to as a little memory device to be like, hey, here's an updated EFC. Yeah, it's a tool. It's a way to do it. But most of the time, yeah, we see you in the hold. We're gonna give you in the center. We give you like a 30-minute, 35-minute EFC. So, it's going to take you 5 minutes to fly to the hold by the time we've given you the holding clearance. You still got 25 minutes till the end of your EFC. That's not time to update it. And then on ERAM, whenever it gets to be about 5 minutes before your EFC, your little data block says EFC. So that's a reminder for us to either extend the EFC or to clear you out of holding if we can. Okay. Here we go. Good questions. You know the legend of Aloha Bob. I've heard of Aloha Bob. I've heard of Aloha Bob, yes. All right. On the last couple of trips, I asked a question and can't get a straight answer from check airmen or our manuals. Uh-oh. If ATC sends a direct to or to send to message through CPDLC, and as a pilot, we accept the request, then start turning or descending before the Wilco pops up. I've had it lag for a long time. Is that a possible deviation? Could I get a violation? When does ATC expect us to start whenever they ask us to do, or whatever they ask us to do? Once they send it, or once we acknowledge it? A great question. In our CPDLC training, which I was a cadre for, which was an instructor, we are taught that whenever we send you the clearance, you review the clearance, you see the clearance, you execute the clearance, and then you click Wilco. Which means that you are already turning before the Wilco message has been sent, or concurrently with the Wilco message being sent. Which is interesting because a lot of pilots that I've heard on here say the opposite. They Wilco it and then do the clearance. They're like, well, in real world radio telephony, it's November 123, climb and maintain flight level 240, November 123 up to flight level 240. And then they dial it in and then climb, right? Whereas CPDLC, you don't need the instant acknowledgement because there's lag time, and we understand that there's lag time. Latency is what we call it. And so whenever I send you that clearance, I'm expecting you to climb or to turn or whatever, either before you click Wilco or when you click Wilco, or maybe after you click Wilco, because the latency can delay sometimes. Sometimes you click Wilco and it doesn't send to us and you turn, and then we get a timeout message. We're like, hey, just making sure that you receive the message. Yeah, we received it. It's just latency. Okay, cool. So all that to say, you won't get a pilot deviation because from the moment we send it to you to the moment that you get the Wilco, and a little bit after probably, we are anticipating you to climb or to descend or to turn, because that's what we've given you. That's the instruction that we've given you. Now, there's a time limit for this. For a full reroute, it's like 3 minutes. For an altitude change, I think it's like 30 seconds. Where if our computer system doesn't receive a Wilco, it'll highlight your data block saying, hey, this guy's message timed out. That doesn't mean anything. It just basically wants us to go to voice and be like, hey, I just want to make sure that you got this clearance. Yeah. Does your facility deal with resource management for splitting sectors unnecessarily? We just had a memo come out about this, and I can't talk about that. It's funny because when you say Wilco it, send it, For us, it stays up so we can see it till we clear it. Josh, welcome. I'm doing well. I usually wait for it to clear it. Wait to clear it when we get a call back, like for. So yeah, you're not going to get a deviation because we're protecting for what we've cleared you for, right? The altitude change of the turn. What? Harassment and bullying. Okay. Apparently, my live was restricted because somebody said I was bullying them or something. I don't know. Weird. It's weird. This is so strange because you have to be so careful with what you say on here. And I've been pretty good recently. What am I saying? What am I saying? I don't know. What are your thoughts on TSA potentially being shifted to being under DOT? I don't know. I don't know, man. I don't know. I don't know about a lot of this stuff. A facility requires us to have extra resources unless every sector is open. It's ridiculous. Yeah. Higher up. What does slant RM ZDV WC mean? So remarks. Somebody at Denver, I think the Weather Center, ZDV WC Weather Center, they're the one that put in the PIREP. That's what that means. Yeah. So the Center Weather Center, the Denver Center Weather Center, put in the PIREP. That's basically all that means. Sometimes it'll be like ZHU 83, and that's just basically like the Houston Center Sector 83 put in this PIREP, right? As opposed to a pilot, like submitting it via ForeFlight or whatever. That makes sense. There you go. So there you go. That answers that. What is a confidence check? It's a good question. A confidence check is basically air traffic control telling the pilot, are you okay? One. And are you in need of assistance? This is normally in regards to an aircraft being either on an IFR flight plan, but they're like not doing what we want them to do. Either a potential breach of the cabin or something along those lines, if you catch what I'm saying. And so that's a confidence check. You know, turn 20 degrees right. Turn 30 degrees right. You can look it up in the 0.65 if you want to look at it. These are my favorite things because pilots are so piloty. Yeah, Sky Spotter program. Yep. It's just the center sector. Love your videos, and I always wanted to know, when trailing slower aircraft, why do I have to slow down? Boeings generally climb out Airbuses and Embraers and American Airlines. I'm constantly being slowed because someone wants to cruise slower, climb slower, descend slower. Why can't y'all turn them out 90 degrees while we fly by? Or at least try to give them the option to drastically speed up or get out of the way. Air traffic control operates on the rule of first come, first serve, right? A situation that normally happens is we'll have a citation, C56 Alpha or whatever, going to Hobby. Their max is 275. Got a Southwest behind them going 400. They both have to go to the same airport. They both have to be sequenced to this airport. Unfortunately, the citation is first. Inevitably, that's how it is. The citation is always first. For Houston, we actually have an offload star for slower aircraft that can't meet the speed restrictions on the bay arrival. which is nice because then we could just put the citation on that technique arrival and then the Southwest can keep going fast. But if Hobby is landing east, no, if Hobby's landing west, landing 3-1 left, they use the Puck's arrival, and the Puck's arrival speed is 250 knots at bay, which means that this citation can do it. Now, he's also going Mach 0.69, and the Southwest are going 7.8. So now you're sequencing these planes on the same arrival because they can technically do the speeds on the arrival. So, yeah, you get some zigzags, maybe you get some whatever, because ultimately you're all going to the same airport, and it's our job to sequence you to the TRACON. And once you get to 250 knots, you're all going to be going the same speed anyway. So, that is what it is. Now, if you're flying cross country and there's not really a reason to sequence you, yeah, sure, I may ask you, hey, are you able to climb, and then once you leapfrog over this guy, to send you on the other side, or things like that, right? Because we don't want to delay you, right? It's safe, orderly, and expeditious flow of traffic, right? Expeditious is number 3, and so we do want to be expeditious, but sometimes we just can't. Our hands are tied. Because you all want to go to the same airport, and you all have to go to the same airport, and we have to treat you on a first come, first served basis. If you wanted to be number 1, you should have left 10 minutes earlier. All I'm saying. I know that's not how that works, but that's pretty much how that works. I love it when this flotation is leading the pack into LaGuardia, 25 miles in shuttle. Yeah, it's awful. Maintain Mach 0.64 or greater for spacing. We get VIP TFRs here in New Jersey. Does it increase ATC workload, especially since it's Newark, JFK, LaGuardia? Yeah. TFRs do suck. They are terrible sometimes. Especially with like the big dog VIP guys flying around. But for the most part, the outer ring, if you're on an ATC clearance, it's pretty much business as usual. Until, the VIP movement stops the airport, at which point you have to hold, which is kind of frustrating. All my people in my specialty, so my area is like Southeast Houston, Southwest New Orleans. So whenever President Bush would fly in to Houston or to Waco or whatever, that would always create some problems. Now with President Trump going down to Florida, that causes, air traffic control flow programs as well, which this is how it is. I'm sure whenever a president's from Illinois or Kentucky or California or Seattle or whatever, it's going to cause them problems as well. Yeah. Okay. Here we go. It's a lot of talking. Can you make a video on VFR pilots flying in IFR conditions? Can controllers do anything about that? Thanks. Controllers can't fly your airplane for you. That's the solution to that. Controllers can tell you where VFR conditions are. We can tell you VFR flight not recommended. We can tell you, hey, nobody's been able to get through this line of weather. I suggest you divert to your alternate, or I suggest you do this, or I suggest you do that. We can't tell you what to do. You're the pilot flying. But we can say, hey, talking to the tapes, right, talking to the recordings, I don't think you should do that. VFR into IFR is one of the most dangerous things that a pilot can do. Inadvertent VFR into IFR. IMC, I guess. And so, why would you put yourself in that situation if you can help it, right? I don't want to be the one talking to you whenever you're spiraling out of control. Don't put me in that situation. Don't put yourself in that situation. Yeah, we'd recommend VFR flight not recommended. That's our phraseology for that. Cool. Let's see here. Follow up. Well, all right. The good thing is a lot of the questions. Hurry up itis is so dangerous. It really is. Yep. Do you get many CRJs or E145s down in Houston much, or are those regional phasing them out as well? No, the regionals are living them up. A lot of CRJ2s, a lot of 145s. Yeah, Commute Air only flies 145s. And we deal with Commute Air every day. Every day. What do you say is the biggest challenge you deal with on a day-to-day basis? And help yourself. I know, right? Biggest challenge I would say is working. It's not really the planes. It's not really the planes. It's the constant need to be good. It's the constant need to put forth effort to do the job well. It's hard because it's easy to just do the job half-assed. It's easy to just certify and then be, okay, I'm a controller now. I don't have to keep learning. That's why I like doing this. That's why I like doing the TikTok stuff and the Instagram stuff, because I learn whenever I'm answering y'all's questions, and hopefully y'all learn from me whenever I learn, right? And so that's the challenging part. And hopefully getting other people, other controllers inspired to keep learning is beneficial on, because we have like recurrent training and we have like these things, these official channels of like, here's your continuing education for this week or whatever. But a lot of it is just very mundane. They try and make it interesting, and some of it is interesting, but it's very governmental and it's very, this is what we're doing right now. This is how we're learning. This is what we're doing. Okay, cool. So that's kind of my thing. Somebody said people not using their call signs or making them repeat transmissions. Yes, I agree. That can be frustrating as well. Use your call sign, if you can help it, which you should, because that's who you are. Be proud of who you are. All right. Yeah. Yeah, for some reason I don't know why. Okay. Well, I think that answers the majority of the questions that people have had. Thank you all for bearing with me while we were here. Somebody asked, do you know when the next off the street bid might be? I think July. Sometime in July, last week of July, second to last week of July. Because I think they want to do something with Oshkosh. Through the grapevine, that's what I'm hearing. Yeah, so sometime in July. Alrighty. Do you ever deal with tech ops? And if so, what is one thing you wish they did more of? I don't really deal with tech ops all that often, and every time I do, they're pretty chill. But I don't know. I'd like for them to take our frequency problems more seriously. I mean, I'm sure they do, but a lot of times they're like, have you tried turning it off and turning it back on again? Like, yes, I've tried that, and it's not working. Help. I'm only a controller. I don't speak your goop jargon. Like, help me be able to explain what I need better from you. Don't just scoff it off that controllers don't know what they're talking about. I don't know. Us VFR pilots would never fly beyond minimums. Okay. Mounts on ram towers, they're important. Which CBS show most accurately depicts ATC? I'm not entirely sure of the CBS shows that depict ATC. Figure out why LZU Fido can't stay working for more than 1 hour. Yeah, there you go. Huh. Alrighty. Well, thank you all so much. I'm going to go drink some tea. I wish they'd bring back fan flights. It'd bring back so much learning for both ends. So I went to a thing yesterday. It was a little meet and greet get together with Houston Approach and me. It was fun over there. And one of the items that they talked about was FAM flights, these flight deck training flights coming back. And they said it's going to be relatively soon. They're just waiting on the TSA to sign the paper. So hopefully within the next month, we'll have FAM flights back, flight deck training. So that'll be really exciting. I'm really excited about that. I don't know what the stipulations will be. I don't know anything like that, but you heard it here first. FAM flights are coming back at some point in the near future. Ulix20 just graduated from an ECTI school. Oh, awesome, cool. So since you graduated from a CTI school, the ECTI school, there's a separate application on USA Jobs for ECTI graduates. That's just open, I think. So you don't have to wait till the off the street bid if you have your endorsement and everything, from my understanding. Yeah. So I'm excited about about that. Anyway, see you all later. Thanks for stopping by. If you want to get something off my Etsy shop, because that's there, use the code CATCLUB, CATCLUB, and I think you get 30% off or something. I don't know. I've made that code so long ago. It's a lot though. All right, we'll see you later. Goodbye, everybody. Goodbye. See ya. I gotta wait 30 seconds, then it'll be an hour and 30. One rose, thank you so much. A half a penny. It's funny. All right, let's see here. We'll go here. We'll go here. You know, on Twitch, you can like raid another person's stream. They don't do that on TikTok. Oh well, what can you do? Nothing much.